The topic of our research is planning imperatives for improving the life in urban villages, National Capital Territory of Delhi. The work has been jointly done by Professor Dr. Vinita Yadav and Ms. Uruz Fatima from the Department of Regional Planning, School of Planning Architecture, New Delhi. Urban villages had the distinct characteristics. They are the densest informal settlements. The quality of life of people is in destitute condition. Changes in the social and economic structure of the village has happened over a period of time. The rapid population increase has been observed, and there is a shift in the urban-rural land use around the metropolitan region. The aim to carry out this research was to explore the development of villages and changes in socio-economic dynamics. The objectives are to assess the changes in social and economic structure of Delhi's urban villages during the process of their incorporation into the urban limits, to suggest planning imperatives for improvising the quality of life in urban villages, and to devise policies interventions based on the understanding of the socio-economic context. In this slide, the following research questions were framed. What kind of quality of life is persisting in the urban villages of National Capital Region? How the rural settlement changed its socio-cultural and urban morphology to sync with the life of metropolis? How the urban village has played the role in the economy of Delhi, and has the development of the village adapted towards the future policy interventions? The methodology used to carry out this research was that first of all, the profile of the urban villages in Delhi was prepared, which has been studied in terms of demographic profile, social and economic characteristics, with the help of secondary data from published sources, Delhi master plans, as well as the policy interventions from the government websites. The urban village has been defined differently by varied authors. Well-planned setup with a village set concept of being fairly self-sufficient and not having the need to travel long distances so as to meet the daily requirement. They are intended to tackle the problem of increasing population in cities. The salient feature of Delhi urban villages is mixed-use zoning. Each of the urban villages differs from the other. An urban village is an erstwhile rural village which is enveloped by the formal city while retaining distinct social characteristics and traditional governance structures. It represents a process in which a rural settlement is caught in the process of rapid urbanization of a metropolis, is designated under unplanned dwelling units with inadequate infrastructure in the city by GNCTD. The concept of urban village differs substantially between the Western concept and Indian concept, though it has been originated in 1980s in Britain and 1908 in Indian context. It's a medium density development. Mixed use zoning gets promoted, as well as the provision of efficient public transit system in Western cities. Emphasis exists on urban design, pedestrianization, and public squares. Alternatives to decentralization and sprawl, and thus intrusion into the countryside. There is a high level of self-containment of people working and recreating in the same area. Whereas in Indian context, it's known as Lal Dora. It's extremely high density development compared to the rest of the city. Mixed use zoning is prevailed. Public transit is not sufficient. Forced pedestrianization and no public squares due to unplanned development of the village. Decentralization and urban sprawl still prevails. Rural villages are thus getting urbanized. Most of the migrants reside in these villages who are in search of job opportunities in metropolitan regions, and houses are majorly on rent. If we see these maps, we would realize that continuous the built-up area has increased from the time period of 1975 to 2019 in the NCT Delhi. And Delhi, with approximate 29 million population, is considered the most population region in the world, which has highest population density of 11,320 persons per square kilometer. In Delhi, the urban villages got notified under the DMC Act of 1957. They have witnessed significant change in their density and demography. It's inhabited by 6.4% of the total population. Rural villages are 227 in number, where 6.82% people resides in and occupies 38% of land. The urbanized villages were 20 in number in 1961, which has increased to 135 in 2011. The urban population, on the other hand side, has increased from 8.47 million to 16.75 million in 2011. More than 55% growth has been observed, which puts pressure on land. The concept of Lal Dora has originated in 1908, and village land, which is part of the village Abadi, protected habitation lands have been exempted from the regulations of urban development authorities. The Master Plan of Delhi in 1961 has used the expression of urban village to designate the cluster of villages chosen on the fringes of urban Delhi to relocate certain small industries with village-like characteristics, for example, pottery, handloom weaving, tanning, rearing cattle, etc.
Transition from a village to urban village can be traced in 4 stages. At very beginning, when the rapid urbanization process takes place, the rural settlement located within and around urbanized area lose their agricultural land. Farmers sell their lands to the government or the developer. Now, these settlements are exempted from the regulation of urban institution. This results in haphazard construction. Eventually, vacant agricultural land turns into slum-like settlement. In stage 2, about which occurs about a decade later, the settlement is resided by migrants due to the cheap rental value. Old villages function as the landlords. Commercialization also go through in the area to cater the demand of the populations. In due course, the migrants belonging to different culture and socioeconomic status settle down as a permanent resident. Provision for education and health institutions are provided to derive the socio-political advantage. After 10 and 15 years later, in stage 3, the village is transformed into a crowded settlement. This is due to lack of government controls and greed for the rental income by the inhabitants and stakeholders. They start investing in every inch of their property. Small businessmen, students, labor, etc. move in the settlement for the cheaper rent compared to the other planned or the posh area surrounding the urban village. Economic dynamics and upgradation is observed through the public investment. In the further in the later stage, the village gentrified and turned into the mix in nature. As we know or see most of the urban village, economy as well as the spatial transformation changed the dynamics of a village. Expansion of built spaces lead to illegal encroachment, lack of open spaces, degraded environmental condition, congested space, inadequate parking come as a problem to this urban village. Economic activities in urban village. An urbanizing village reflects the natural process of transformation of a human settlement from one economic order to another. During the course of transformation, the settlement suddenly loses its source of livelihood from farming and allied activities. The residents have to adjust to the new type of economic activity, which they have not been familiar previously. New economic activity emerged through a process of confusion due to limited availability of commercial areas and high real estate value in a planned area. People with a business interest start renting and purchasing the land from the village. Prominent road within the village become a point for the commercialization containing those retail establishment which have higher demands, like interior shops, etc. Whereas interior area become the popular market hub, catering the daily need of settlement. interior area has small business on the ground floor. Being near to the upscale neighborhood, high-end shopping and entertainment center is developed, like Hoskas and Saburjat seen in the new NCR Delhi. Village undergo a cultural transformation in which the urban village tradition, the economic pattern of the traditional urban village from a agriculture economy has turned into a service oriented and recreational facilitating market space. Social fabrication of urban village. Social structure of a village is commonly governed by a village community and people residing in it. In case of urban village, local people are more dominant group and have greater control over the affair of the village than migrants. As village densify, public life get intensified around the public spaces. Percentage of stationary activity decrease, which is an important factor in rural village. Public spaces shared among the resident are shared among the resident, but the private consumption had led to the over-exploitation of the space, thus resulting in the congestion and encroachment. Safety, which was not an issue in a rural village, has now come up as one of the major concerns in urban villages. Zamratpur village has been chosen as a case study to study the socio-economic, residential fabric, and the physical infrastructure. Zamratpur village is situated adjacent to the posh colony of the Greater Kailash area. As we can see it from the map, Google map, it is a satellite image showing the Zamratpur village surrounded by mainly the posh area like Lajpat Nagar 4, east of Kailash, Kailash Colony, Greater Kailash 1 and Block. If we see the history of this area, it was a jagir given to an Afghan noble named Zamratpur Khan in Kanchan Sarai during the regime of the Sikandar Lodi. Henceforth, the area is known as the Zamratpur. The village has 5 SI protected tomb. This monument, this tomb belongs to the family of the nobles. Currently, the monument's condition are beyond recognizability and actually surrounded by the residential developments. Tomb now serve as the multiple purposes. We can see it from the image on the right side, which shows the clothes are hanging on the premise of the tomb. Land use of the Zamratpur village. Village has a crowded agglomeration of multi-storied building with no physical hygiene or open spaces. It is not regulated by any form of building regulation. This is the land use. This is the land use map of Zamratpur village, which has evolved over the time. It is eminently visible from the map how compacted the residential area is built. Towards the left, if we see towards the left of the map, the heritage building is highlighted with the green color, and there is a public spaces towards the left side of the map. Building on the connecting streets used either for the commercial activities or are mixed land use. And as it is observed from, it can be observed from the land use plan, no proper open spaces have been designated in the area. So there is lack of open areas in the village. These images help us to understand the condition of the road network in the area. The village has the disorganized street characters, having the problem of inaccessibility and the vehicular mess. The middle image is taken in the inner area of the village. These streets remain dark and damp around the year, while the major streets get crowded due to the parking and heavy commercial activity. Towards the left is the major street showing the parking area. This map shows the residential fabric of the area. As the transformation, landowners have built the multi-storied house to achieve the maximum rental income. The village has high density with the building height ranging from 2 to 5 storied or more. With the increase in density, the streets have become narrower and darker. This village, the village mostly catered the floating population of the area. Due to the cheap rental value, the area provides the opportunity for the growth of economic development. Most of the commercial activities is along the street as notified by GNCTD. The commercial street is highlighted in the map. The blue color denotes the Madhu Milan Banquet Hall to 87 by 3 road street. And another one is the road stretch from 87A to 78A. The map show how the land use have changed from residential to mixed use along the road in interior as well as the exterior part of the exterior part of the village. In the interior part, we mostly see the land use have changed to the mixed land use, while the exterior part are mostly the commercial land use. Condition of the physical infrastructure is not proper and is ill-maintained. The village received the water supply, which is supplied from the Sonia Vihar treatment plant, but has deteriorated condition of the existing water pipeline, which is shown in the first image. There are around 853 authorized meter connection according to the Delhi Jal Board. And each connection serve approximately 3 households in the mutual basis. The right image is shown the common water collection area. There is a well and the pump for the underground water, but it is less used as the water is not potable for drinking. Condition of sewage and waste disposal are also in bad condition. The sewage network has not been maintained properly. There are open drains. For garbage, municipal personnel and private collectors are responsible, but the location of Delhi is unspecified and ill-maintained, due to which the garbage are spread on the road. We can here see the images of the open drains and the wastewater spill out on the street due to the ill-maintained sewage system in the region. And we can also see the image of the garbage which is spread over the street and the road in the area. Issues and challenges which is faced by this urban village in the NCR are mainly the planning dilemmas and inaction, institution challenge, policy gap, political influence, land markets, unregulated urban growth, densification, lack of open spaces, socio-economic transition, change in livelihood. Policies, interventions. Delhi urban village are subject to specific urban codes through the Lal Dora, a legal term that is delineated the urban built area. These areas are exempted from the building bylaws and but they are subjected to 15-meter height restriction. and there is a fine if if the building height exceeds. Higher control of the local population is undefined informal code which are implemented in these villages but congested by the agencies and outsiders staying in the locality. As per the master plan of Delhi 2021, the following building regulation are applicable in urban village. Mandatory building plan approved with the applied fire and earthquake norms, lift requirement norms. Only household industries of non-polluting kind are permitted. Commercial use is permitted only when the fire safety regulation are followed, and road width shall not be fewer than a meters. Beyond the building lines, projections are not allowed, but yet we can see these regulations are not implemented. At last, we would like to conclude that through this paper, the different stages of the development of urban village can be observed. This process can be seen as an example of losing out the identity and changing socioeconomic culture. The urban village has turned into a place with a chaotic and unsafe development. If the design input are put at the initial stages of the development in the urban village, it can definitely help in the better environment and building condition for the resident to achieve their satisfactory level. Thank you all.